Hello again everyone, it's me Matt. I appreciate you stopping by on today's video. We are discussing a rather interesting incident which occurred with the F-16 fighter jet in Japan. Now just a little bit of a backstory about me. If you aren't already aware, I'm an artillery gunner reservist in the Canadian Armed Forces, and of course as an artillery gunner and as any gunner in the artillery, we take fire discipline and the way in which we put projectiles on target accurately very, very seriously, to the point that it's almost religiously embedded inside of us and the way in which we operate and do things. It's a very strict process, the way in which we complete on fire missions and fire discipline, and it applies to all spectrums of fire support, whether it be, calling in for fire with aircraft, or calling in for fire with artillery or rockets or any other kind of fire support system that can be used. Today's video is discussing specifically an incident that happened in Japan of an F-16 accidentally dropping a GBU on the wrong location, almost 3 miles away. Now, I like to talk about these kind of situations on my channel because a lot of you are active serving, some of you are in some of these job functions, and a lot of you are actually aspiring to join the armed forces, and also just gives us a stark realization of things that can go wrong, and that not everything is as simple as it seems, and that we can sometimes not get just complacent, but just have an error or lapse in judgment. And it's important that sometimes we just get that little wake-up call or that little nudge that says, hey, you're dealing with some serious stuff here, and some really dangerous and important situations that you need to be, very controlling of and be aware of what you're doing. So hopefully this video kind of gives you that little sort of pinch in the butt to say, hey, time to switch on a little bit more and be aware of these things are occurring around the world. Now, fighter pilots have a ton of things going on. They're some of the most skilled and experienced people in the military force because they have so much responsibility. They're handling millions and millions of dollars. It's split-second decisions. Lots of things going on at any one time, and if you throw things like weather conditions in there, confusing data and information being passed on to them, it really is an extremely challenging job function. However, when it comes to training, there's always the level of double-checking, triple-checking, or quadruple-checking things that you should be doing, especially with such dangerous pieces of equipment, such as GBUs or guided or unguided munitions that can be dropped from height. We're talking about an explosive amount of firepower here from, ground bombing runs from an F-16. It's I've seen it in person. It's pretty impressive when they drop some of the munitions, and it's also a little scary that these kind of training mishaps happen. So I'm going to give you a bit of a backstory as to exactly what occurred. So a United States Air Force F-16 Fighting Falcon recently, on April 25th of this year, was found to have mistakenly dropped a bomb on private property miles away from a bombing range that was in Japan. The Air Force released an accident report that said the incident actually took place on November 6th, 2019, but the incident was actually only released as of recently. The report explains that the pilot error caused the GBU-12 laser-guided bomb to strike the wrong target miles away from the actual target. An F-16 CM fighter jet from the 14th Fighter Squadron was flying a training mission at Draughon Bombing Range, located approximately 15 miles away from the fighter's home base at Misawa Air Base. The pilot accidentally sent the GBU-12 flying to a target location he believed another F-16 was spotting for him. Instead, the bomb was sent to another location, 3.4 miles away and off the bombing range onto private property. No one was killed or injured during the incident, and there was little to no damage to the property. The GBU-12 Paveway 2 bomb is a 500-pound bomb fitted with a laser seeker and control fins to guide the bomb on target. The releasing aircraft, other aircraft, drone, or units on the ground paints normally the target with a laser beam. Once the bomb is dropped, the seeker homes in on the laser energy reflected off the target. Laser-guided bombs, like the Paveway 2, are considered smart bombs, but they are only as smart as the targeting data and the information that's been provided to it. In this particular case, the report explained that the pilot was flying a nighttime suppression of enemy defense, or a SEAD mission, which basically allows them to, take out radars from long distance or specific direct attack to assets that are actually causing issues for other air assets. Now, they were cleared to drop an inert, non-explosive GBU-12. Due to the scattered clouds of the 6,000 to 8,000 foot level, the pilot was unable to see the target himself. Now, although the bomb was inert, we still have to take this as just as if any normal bombing run would have occurred with high explosives inside of there, because It doesn't matter that it was a training round. The round was still dropped. You know, something of that size, if it was to land on someone else or something else, could have caused major issues. For instance, a gas station. Pretty scary stuff. Now, of course, you're not going to put a gas station 3.5 miles away from a bombing range, of course. But there are other things that are pretty serious that this thing could drop on that could cause problems, especially on private property. The pilot actually asked another aircraft in his 3-ship formation to transmit target coordinates, and another plane did so. Unfortunately, the pilot apparently became confused and dropped the bomb on a different set of coordinates. This is why, folks, I want to remind you all, if you are in these kind of, you know, trade disciplines or combat roles, you got to double, quadruple check everything. And in, you know, training environments, there really is no excuse for not double checking things or verifying. I'm not saying this pilot hasn't done these things, of course. As I said before, pilots have a bazillion things going on at once. They have so much responsibility, and mistakes do happen. We're humans. We make mistakes. You know, I've seen many critical errors occurring in my industry that I work in the aviation industry, and it happens. But unfortunately, in this situation, it's a lot more high level and high profile because we are talking about munitions, even though inert, being dropped on the wrong location. Now, the footage you're looking at right now is obviously of dummy bombs, or bombs that don't require laser guidance. They're doing close air support missions, so it's a lot easier for these pilots to actually engage the target to be a little bit more specific as to what they're seeing or what they're looking at, especially when you have JTACs calling it in this particular footage. It is the JTACs that are calling in this firepower, so it's a little bit easier for the pilots to engage these targets and understand, you know, exactly what they need to fire at. With a seed mission, it gets a little bit more complex. You know, you're actually flying from high altitudes with these weather conditions and being at night. It just adds a whole, you know, complication to the process. It's not an excuse, but it's just a fact and the reality of, you know, what pilots have to go through. It's not the easiest job in the world. You know, it's a challenging environment. I can safely say I don't think I could ever perform as a pilot. I would struggle. I don't have the dexterity, the mathematical capability, or just the mental brain power to handle this kind of situation. So, you know, hats off to the pilot. You know, it's a mistake was made. We're not going to give them a hard time. I have a huge respect for air forces around the world, and of course the United States Air Force. The report states that it blames more channelized attention, changing weather, and targeting technical error for the errant drop. The pilot believed that one of the other aircraft in his flight could see the target and it was safe to drop the bomb. Unfortunately, unknown to all of those involved, the pilot acted on incorrect targeting data. According to the Air Force, the pilot and the aircraft were both immediately grounded after the incident. The pilot was unfortunately disqualified, retained his weapons handling, but was retrained fully in the way in which he could actually take part in it. So, you know, he was still able to engage, but he had to be completely retrained on how to operate, I guess, his fighter jet in launching munitions of this kind. And he was actually ordered to brief all other pilots at Misawa on the sequence of events leading up to the mishap to prevent further incidents. And that's a pretty cool thing to do. You know, it's a hard time when you make a mistake, but when you have the you know, the courage and the you know, I guess the bravery really to stand up in front of every other experienced pilot and say, you know what guys, I kind of screwed up here, don't do what I did. That takes a lot of balls to do that, so hats off to the pilot. And of course the Air Force, you know, kind of pushed him into doing that, but I think it's a smart way of doing things. You know, it's different when you hear it from a third person saying, yeah, don't do this guys, but when you're actually hearing it from the person who did it and actually can give you specifics, I think that's going to be a better preventative situation than anything else in terms of human factors and human errors. Incidents like these do happen periodically though, and it's particularly disruptive at overseas bases where local governments are sensitive to the presence of foreign troops on their soil. So of course this does get a little bit more high level when, you know, you're on a different country's terrain and you're launching, you know, munitions that shouldn't be there. In the United States, of course, I'm sure it'd still be followed, but probably not as stringently as this was. Also, the Japanese government later issued a severe protest over the Air Force's handling of this incident and was particularly upset that it was not informed until the next day of it happening. In fact, in March 2018, there was an incident involving another F-16 based at Misawa, which dropped 2 external fuel tanks in a lake after its engine caught fire. Now, honestly, I I can't really judge a pilot for dropping 2 gigantic firecrackers on the side of the aircraft when the plane is going through severe dangerous situations. That is what it is, but I can understand the frustrations of being informed a little bit late of this kind of situation. No one was hurt, which is good, but of course, we just want to try and look at this thing as more of a preventative notification. As I said before, if you are in some of these critical job functions or these kind of roles in the military or even outside the military, in your civilian career, that can come up with just as much of a dangerous situation. You're handling very expensive equipment, certain situations that you could get complacent with or just confused with. Always ask questions, always double check, verify these things, because in the artillery, if we fire a projectile incorrectly or with the wrong data, we call it a winger. You really don't want to be going through your career having to have that happen. As I said before, we are humans, we make mistakes, things happen, and especially in an industry such as the Air Force, there is so much that can go wrong in a split second. So as I said before, this is no discredit to the pilot or the Air Force at all. Things do just go sometimes wrong. But I hope this is somewhat of a reality check for you guys if you are involved in these kind of situations. And maybe just sort of a little wake-up call to say, yeah, you know what, next time I do something a little bit more serious, I'm going to double-check, verify things so that I don't have to be the one that comes home and has to explain this kind of situation to my chain of command or my employer or even potentially a judge, which of course you definitely don't want to be involved in. I appreciate you all stopping by today on today's video, folks. If you did enjoy these kind of news blurps, you can let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like, and if you want to be notified of any upcoming videos, please click the little bell by the subscribe button so you can be notified of any upcoming content. I'd like to personally thank everyone from the bottom of my heart for supporting and contributing towards both my Patreon and PayPal donation pages. I understand these are really difficult times for everyone right now. I want to encourage you to please focus on yourself and your lives and not a random YouTuber online. I've had some rather interesting conversations with people recently, especially in regards to my memberships of my channel and me releasing a video making people aware of my memberships. Rather upsetting that some people claim for me to be a gold digger and e-begging, I guess it's called now. Certainly not the case. I've always advocated for you all to focus on your lives and keep your money for yourself. Go spend it on some nice stuff. It's the summer. Go buy a new mountain bike. Get out there. Go do fun things, especially going through this COVID-19 crisis. I really do not want you guys sending me money in any way, shape, or form, because at the end of the day, you really do need to focus on your own lives and your own family. For those of you, though, who are willing to support me, it is appreciated but not encouraged. I do focus primarily on making sure that you, as the viewer, are entertained and not here to be sending some random YouTuber money online. So please just make that very clear before I go any further with my channel. I'm not here to take money from you. It's never been my intention on my channel, so I just wanted to validate that, because I was quite frustrated the other day. I kind of vented on my Discord channel, which was probably not the best way to go. Anyway, thanks everyone for stopping by, and I'll catch you on the next video. All the best. Bye-bye.